Alright guys, James and Justin here. You asked for it. This video we're going to react to why are Hindu gods so human. Now I think this was in response to the last video we did by Dharma Speaks, which was why are there so many Hindu gods? So like we got asked a lot of times in the comments like, do this one next, do this one next. So here you go.
Why are they so human? Why?
When we look at the pastimes of the Hindu gods, they end up displaying the most fallible and human of qualities. The child Krishna runs away in fear from his mother Yashoda after breaking pots and eating butter. When Sita is kidnapped by Ravana, Lord Ram is utterly distraught and weeps. When he wishes to rescue her, he needs the help of monkeys to build a bridge and fight for him. Hindus are generally very comfortable with the idea that God can be intensely human in appearance and behaviour, but they can often...
I have to say this thing, that I've noticed this a few times in like Hindu art, is that the like monkeys look humanoid.
Yeah.
And because it's such an old and ancient tradition, it makes me think of like, maybe they were actually like that. Maybe there were actual monkeys that were humanoid back then. Because you see it in a lot of the art.
Well, sometimes even to this day you see astounding things. It'll be like, sometimes you'll see footage from like, I don't know, some place, and they'll like have the monkeys as workers. It's like, what are those monkeys doing? It's like, they're my pets. They're doing some chores for me. You're like, wait, pause it? What? Those monkeys can like, and then you hear about monkeys being like little bands of thieves going into towns, like organized.
Yeah.
Stuff. Sometimes it's pretty tragic actually. But...
Yeah.
You know
and I do
mean?
think there's a Hindu god, I don't know if it's a god, but Hanuman is like a character within Hinduism, which I think is like half monkey, half man, but I'm not sure. So we'll have to do a video on Hanuman.
Yeah, or just let us know.
Struggle to answer questions about it from those who don't. Christians and Muslims in particular can often be left surprised and confused when they hear about the deeds of the Hindu deities. God is meant to be all-powerful and needs nothing from anyone. And if that is the case, why does he have so many flaws?
I started thinking, how can such character of Ram, Sita, Lakshman, all this be a god? How can I agree that they are gods? When they are not able to save their own family and themselves, how will they save me and my family? You know, if God cannot know what are the evil plans done by the villains and the evil people,
What are you
how will he
laughing
know
at?
what's
At the
happening?
guys, was that guy legitimately asking that?
What was he asking? So I missed it because you were a lot.
Because he was just saying, well, you're gods. Why would I believe in them? They can't even save their own selves. You know what I mean? I don't know if he was saying that to illustrate a point or if he was actually asking that. It's just funny, somebody trying to like rationalize like, why would I believe you're God?
Yeah.
He just can't even help himself. You know what I mean? Like, that's funny to me.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Family, you know. If God cannot know what are the evil plans done by the villains and the evil people, how will he know what's happening in the world?
To correct this misunderstanding, we need to get right to the root of the problem. Those Christians and Muslims who believe their religion is the only way to truth follow a salvation theology, and they see everything as leading to a coming apocalypse. There are stories in their scripture of different prophets and saviors warning us about the coming end times. According to these stories, there is a day of judgment approaching and we need to be ready. Hindus, however, have no idea of an apocalypse. There is no final day of judgment. Instead, Hindus have the concept of Leela. Leela means divine play. It is where God, the supreme reality, takes on limitation for the endearment of his devotees. Whereas those who follow a salvation theology are looking to survive God, Hindus are looking to evolve and actually experience God. Apocalypse is built on the idea that we have one life and the end of the world is coming. Life is like a football match. There is a limited time where the winners go to heaven and the losers are condemned. There is an urgency for everyone to jump on board and believe the right thing. Hindu Leela, however, is founded on the individual evolving over many lives to realize their relationship with God. Unlike Christianity and Islam, time is not linear with a final end of the world. It is an eternal cyclic process where souls and material nature are repeatedly projected out into existence and then withdrawn. Hinduism is not like a football match, but more like the making of a beautiful painting. There are no winners and losers, but there is a gradual manifestation of our connection with the divine. During the various Leelas described in Hinduism, God is intensely human. He becomes like us so that on some level we can understand and relate to him. Through his deeds and pastimes, we get an...
That's such a good point from the non-dualist perspective of like these stories of gods being like human. I think it's very hard, I think, for people to imagine that they may be like God. So like, and it's funny because in other religions they're like, don't ever think of yourself as God, which makes me think, yeah, there's this aspect because we are so human and frail, and like this life, we only have a certain amount of time to think of ourselves as God. It seems like that within Hinduism, it's like story after story after story of like trying to help you kind of like, you know, see that picture, like come to grips and maybe realize that, you know, you're just part of the all one.
Very interesting. Very astute observation.
insight into his personality, and we have the possibility of building a deep, intimate connection with him. Simple descriptions of God's mercy have a limitation, but actually seeing him physically in action with others demonstrates who he is to us. Hindus obviously understand that God needs no one's help, but in the Ramayana, for example, the abduction of Sita shows us the example of devotees around Lord Ram. When we hear about how the monkeys and Hanuman served Ram perfectly in every situation, we realize in ourselves what it is to be a servant of God. We understand what it is to sacrifice and deliver selflessly for a higher cause. God's apparent difficulty allows us to engage and participate with him. The Bhagavad Purana is a scripture which is filled with endless Leelas. In the 10th book, it constantly describes the deeds of the all-attractive persona, Krishna. On one hand, we hear about the mischievous thief who steals butter and even eats mud. The next, we are told about how this very same child shows his mother the whole universe in his mouth. Again and again, the Bhagavatam shows the sweet and endearing humanness of Krishna, and then contrasts it with Krishna as the ultimate all-powerful.
For some reason, that's beautiful. It's terrifying. It's enlightening. It's all kinds of things when you think of the stories where the god does something like a child would do, but then also has got like extreme power. That seems to be intuitively some kind of accurate representation of God. Like, what if it doesn't know everything? You know, like on some level, you don't even understand what I'm saying. Like,
yeah, well, wouldn't that be the case with us? In like God figuring itself out, like paradoxically, God absolutely knows definitely what is totally going on at all times, while also exactly at the same time not knowing what's going on.
Yeah,
like a massive paradox of like, because it's infinite. If God's infinite, it's like to me, it makes sense that it would be constantly like figuring itself out while also at the same time knowing itself completely.
Yeah, I love that story where the guy gets to the god and he's like, I fought my way here, got all my way here. Now what's going on here in the universe? And the god's like, I thought you could tell me. Or something like that.
Powerful Supreme Lord. Leela is all about God willingly drawing us into a relationship with him, and then through that relationship making us perceive his glory. God in Hinduism does not want to be feared. He wants to be known.
That's another thing I kind of like. You know, the idea of Leela. Obviously, that's the idea of Leela, or a game or play with life or something, or some kind of like full engagement with reality is not always at our fingertips to have. If you're dealing with something severe, you're kind of... You got to deal with that in the time being. Yeah. But say you've got a moment of reprieve and you've healed and you're in some space. Sometimes it seems like the idea is to get back to an egoless, sort of mindless involvement. That sounds kind of weird, but you know what I mean? Like I'm fully involved with this. My mind's not full of anxiety or fretting about the future. I'm fully engaged in Leela, in the game. I'm in it with my whole heart, and I know my part.
And then you'll do that whole peace thing for who knows how long, and then you'll get tired of that, and you'll be like, I want to go back to the game.
Yeah, but there's an idea of, if it's a game, there's there's roles to play in games.
Yeah.
And I think part of life, one thing that I've learned over maybe the past year is beginning to understand your calling or your role in life, and then like stepping into that, you know, and that brings to mind to study some of Carl Jung's studies.
He wants to give us the highest joy of loving him. This is why we can have different relationships with him. This is the reason why Krishna is the dear friend of the cowherds, why he is adored as the valiant hero that slays demons, and why he is the lover of the gopis. By God taking on limitation and even appearing vulnerable, we are given different portals of access to know him on a deeper level. Krishna needs nothing, but he engages in Leela for our sake. To experience the truth of God in all his majesty is too difficult for the mind to take. In chapter 11 of the Gita, Arjuna is shocked at the reality.
I have seen that in a dream.
What's his face? King Henry, the guy on TikTok. That's his background. That guy.
The heads going up like that, though, especially the one with the mustache.
Yes.
I think stopped on me. But I was having a horrifying nightmare one time. I don't want to tell too much details because I don't want to give fodder for who knows what kind of wizards out there. But I had a dream where, see those heads like that, and they're rounded and they're going around like that. I saw something like that in a dream sometime. A long time ago, way before we started this stuff. I was in a really kind of like dark place in my life. And it said something too that I'll reserve for myself.
Krishna's cosmic form, and he prays in desperation. After seeing this universal form which I have never seen before, I am gladdened, but at the same time my mind is disturbed with fear. Therefore please bestow your grace upon me and reveal again that other form, O Lord of the universe. The full manifestation of divinity does not inspire intimacy and love, but rather awe and fear. Our mind, which belongs to this physical world, cannot tolerate its magnificence. This is why God takes on a form. The important thing to realize is that although the relationships with Krishna are described in human terms, they are actually divine. The devotees around Krishna are utterly surrendered to him. When we read about the different events, we see how they have given up their own will, how their hearts and minds are entirely absorbed in him. Leela is as much about the perfected devotees as it is about God himself. Meditation and contemplation on these Leelas purifies us. It causes us in some way to enter into that same Leela with the Lord himself. And as this happens, the Lord's deeds become the reality of the relationship we are looking to achieve. Mainstream Islam has no real concept of Leela, since it is entirely blasphemous for God to take on any form. In fact, for many Muslims, it would be considered the worst of all sins. But one could argue that the story of Jesus is a Leela, since it is God who has taken on a limitation for the benefit of mankind. There is some truth in this, in that the personality of God becomes revealed through the actions of Christ. His compassion and love for humanity shows God's love for this world. From this point of view, one can draw a number of parallels with the Bhakti traditions of Hinduism. But so long as a Christian believes Christ is the only way, then the emphasis on Christ's life is based more on an apocalyptic scenario than on Hindu Leela. Because for them, the advent of Christ is more about being saved from damnation than realizing his love.
Do you pause it for a second?
What makes this idea of Leela so profound?
I was thinking about this today because they mentioned Christ. And by the way, you know, Hinduism's interesting because in some sense it's maybe for me personally one of the hardest ones to like believe in. But at the same time, it's so relatable, and it highlights so many good points, and it's so rich, and it's so complex, and it seems to like apply to life in so many ways. But getting back to my point, when I was talking about Christ there, it's interesting, this idea of like deifying Christ. It's like, or deifying anybody, any kind of Messiah or magical savior from another realm. It's like the nicest salt of the earth people I know. First of all, they're very rare. Most of us are rascals, let's just say, to keep it PG. Most of us got some rascality in us. But the nicest, Christ-likest people I know are not attention-seeking. Nobody knows about them. They get overlooked. They get ignored. But they're not doing it for anything anyway. They're not doing it for any prize. They're truly selfish in some fundamental way, and they ain't nothing like. They're not like something that's magnetic. Anybody that's magnetic right away is not like the salt of the earth, Christ-like people I've met, which are silent and in fact don't want attention. They're so selfless.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's interesting to me that when we're scrambling as humans to know what is good. What's good? We know what bad is. We've got pages and doctrines and whole books made up about explaining what's bad and where you go if you're bad.
Yeah.
But when we scramble to find what's good, we invent mythologies. We can't just look at the quiet, unassuming nice guy. He's got to be magical and he's got to be a whole thing. It's like the Christ-like people is here. They are around, but they're so rare because the world is cynical and brutal. Yeah. This realm let's not forget that it's apt to play on our carnal desires.
Yeah. No, good points.
Found is that it accepts the paradox of God, who is unknowable, omnipresent, and all-powerful, existing simultaneously in a material, limited form. Any tradition which accepts the notion of the avatar, where the Lord incarnates in form, is always filled with mysticism and produces various saints who have attained spiritual heights. Seeing the unlimited in the limited and the infinite in the finite naturally opens the door to a deeper spiritual perspective. Leela is all about God crossing down, taking on a name and form, walking and talking like us so that we can aspire to know him. Seeing the outside display of the qualities of God and his devotees awakens these same qualities within. This is how surrender, grace and love grow inside us. This is why Hinduism treasures these Leelas in songs, poetry and performances. Whatever we give attention to becomes stronger, and by worshipping these Leelas we humble ourselves, allowing their reality to govern our life. Krishna states, "I am never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them I am covered by my power of illusion, my yoga maya, and so the deluded world knows me not as the unborn and infallible." To those who do not have the depth of perception, they judge the Leelas of Hinduism in the most shallow and ignorant of ways.
Yeah.
They are unable to perceive the divinity that lies behind them. The mind and normal physical eyes bound to this world cannot know God. Before Arjuna is able to see Krishna's cosmic form on the battlefield, he is blessed by him to have divine eyes. In the same way, all spiritual practice in Hinduism is designed to attain these divine eyes. Once we have them, we will understand the truth behind the divine Leelas of the Lord. We will see that there is a loving God who is longing to know us, even more than we are longing to know him. Many thanks for listening.
Yeah, man. No wonder Hinduism has made it all this time. That's so beautiful and so nice. And
yeah, that was a great video. A lot of things it makes a lot of sense. I feel like I'm closer to the wavelength of Hinduism than I am on the apocalyptic. I hate apocalypses. Don't talk to me about apocalypses because I don't want to know about them.
well, then you're gonna learn. Well, then you're gonna learn today. Yeah, which is the attitude that often happens. But yeah, you're right. There's something peaceful and beautiful about this, and forgiving, and we got time, and all this stuff.
Yes,
and yet not just ignorant, and sometimes they showed several times in that video guy being like, "You guys are so wacky and crazy." Yeah. I like that they showed the little clip of them putting on a thing where they're dressed in blue. I was going to ask that. Yeah. Do you guys ever dress like that? Be blue and stuff like that? It seems like they're more open. There's not a fear of being blasphemous. They do pageants where they literally dress like the gods.
In the last video that we did, that was so many. We got a ton of comments because we were talking about blasphemy, and they were like, "There is no blasphemy."
Hell to the that's the religion for me, man, because I'm a blasphemous mofo. So I love that they put, and there was a girl there in, I don't know if you caught that, there was a woman playing the guy with a mustache, which is great. Yeah. So all that is awesome. And you guys
there was another thing that I picked up on there where it was saying that one of the reasons that God has to manifest itself into some type of limited form is because you wouldn't be able to take the infinite if you were exposed to it.
You would be it.
You would blow up.
You'd be it.
Yeah.
You're you right now. So just
Yeah.
enjoy you-ness.
Yeah.
Because if you were the infinite, that's what you'd be.
Which is also found in like Abrahamic religions and stuff like that. Like you can't step into the holy holies because it'll annihilate you.
Yeah, except
Yeah.
for it's like a scarier thing. It's
Yeah,
like cut to, Indiana Jones face melt like but yeah, it's more like you're not that, you're this, and you're experiencing it through this, and when they were looking at some of the images of like young who's the one that's blue? Krishna and blue, it's like, oh, it's too bad that you never get to see like a blue thing. But then they literally act it out. They put on blue paint and it's like, look, it's here, it's in reality. And as AI develops and computer graphics, maybe we'll get some really digital. What if that was a thing? You could step into virtual reality and commune with Krishna, and he's and they're right there before you in 3D, and you've got AI compiling all the scriptures, Hindu scriptures, and siphoning it down into what kind of message they might give you. That is reality talking to itself in some really complex ways.
Wild. I don't know.
Or Jesus or whoever.
Yeah. We've gone a while on this one. One last thing I want to throw out to anyone who's still watching it, who made it to the very end. For like Hindu guests, if you guys have any ideas of like some popular people like YouTubers and stuff who do Hindu content, let us know in the comment box. I'll reach out, see if they want to be on the show, and inform us more. I have a couple in mind. I'm going to see if they want to be on the show. But
send us your brightest and best.
Yeah.
Or whoever.
Yeah. And guys, if you did like our show, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, share this with a friend, and everyone, till next time,
Stay spiritual.